This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Baruchim Haba and welcome everyone. This is our final Shiur of Tavshin Pei Gimel. So, thank you everybody for joining us in the Shiurim this year. And we thank the Rebbeinu Shalom for giving us the Siyata D'Shmaya to gather together for Limud Torah. We're Mispalel, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should grant us good health, Kayach, and Siyata D'Shmaya to come together next year, Be'ezus Hashem, with Besuras Tayvais. The Shiurim on Sefer Devarim are again generously sponsored by Dr. Zakheim Umeshpachta, Leiloi Nishmas, Reb Shlomo Eliezer ben Rabbi Yaakov Zakheim, whose yahrzeit was this week, and also Leiloi Nishmas, Rivka Bas Tuvia Halevi, Dr. Zakheim's mother, B'Gan Eden Teimenu Chasam. They should be Malitze Yesharim for their whole family, Ad Biasko El Tzedek. Tonight's learning should be Leiloi Nishmas, my wife's grandfather, Naftali Herzka, Ben Aaron Mordechai, B'Gan Eden Teimenu Chasai. Should be a Meil Tziyosher for all of his descendants, for his whole family, for Banei Chayim Mezaynei, B'Suras Tayvais, Ad Biasko El Tzedek. Tonight's Shiur is dedicated firstly by daily giving. We spoke about daily giving many times, but now we're right before the Yom Hadin. Chavetz Chaim says that one should treat the spiritual world like a business, which means in business, the best way to make money is when you're sleeping. If you could have a business going that while you're sleeping you're making money, that's the best kind of business. So in the spiritual world, if you could be doing your thing and you've already set aside from the beginning of the year $1 a day, so that no matter what happens, it could be Rosh Chodesh, it could be a 3-day Rosh Chodesh, it could be a 9-day Chanukah, whatever happens during the year, you know you're giving $1 a day to tzedakah, and you're automatically giving an extra 365, you're gaining an extra 365 mitzvahs. It's a very worthwhile investment, and a wise decision before the Yom Hadin. You could go to dailygiving.org. Many listeners have already signed up. Okay, tonight's Shiur is also dedicated by my good friend Rabbi Yaakov Mizrahi. Hashem should bless him and his family with good health, happiness, hatzlacha, abiyas gal tzedek. Tonight's Shiur is also dedicated anonymously in appreciation to Hashem for hatzlacha by a generous individual. Tonight's Shiur is dedicated by my good friend Rabbi Yeshaya Levi on the occasion of his sister's second yahrzeit on Chav Ches Elul. The learning should be Leiloi Nishmas Elisheva Rachel Bluma Bas Rabbi Yosef Halevi. Tonight's Shiur is also dedicated by executive dry cleaning. If you want to get a good press on your suit, if you want to come into the Yom Hadin looking respectively, go to executive dry cleaning. I am a very proud patron of executive dry cleaning. You don't want to waste time. You want to call them up, pick up my suit. They're going to get your suit, they're going to do an excellent job, and they're going to bring it back to your house. So you don't have to waste time. You can listen to more Shiurim. So that's also a good decision before the Yom Hadin. Save time. Use executive dry cleaning. Okay, if anybody wants to be mishtatev in any of the upcoming Sfarim, the one on the queue right now is Reb Meir Balhanes in English for Art Scroll, hopefully for Chanukah. Can be mishtatev in that as well. Rabbi Sai, here we are. We're only 48 hours from the Yom Hadin. We know that the centerpiece of the Yom Tov of Rosh Hashanah is, of course, the Shofar. The Gemara tells us in Masechta Rosh Hashanah, Daf Tazayin, Amar Rav Yehuda Mishum Rabbi Akiva. Why does the Torah say, bring an omer on Pesach? Because Pesach we're being judged on the grain. So therefore you want to have a blessed year with the grain. So serve Hashem with the grain to have a blessed year with the grain. And why does the Torah say, bring shtei alechem on Atzeres? Because on Atzeres we're judged on the fruit. So basically, Hashem is giving us an inside scoop. The inside scoop is, if you're being judged on something, serve Hashem with that item to elicit favor from heaven regarding that item. And why do we pour water on Sukkos? Because we're being judged on water. So you're being judged on water, you got to serve Hashem with water. How are you going to serve Hashem with water? You're going to pour it on the Mizbeach. Says the Gemara. And what do we do on Rosh Hashanah? We say Malchios, Zechroinos, and Shefaros. Malchios, we proclaim God as the King. Zechroinos, so that your remembrance will go up to Hashem for good. And with what? with the shofar. In other words, what is the instrument of success on Rosh Hashanah? The shofar. That's how we have a good year. In other words, how do you have a good year? You blow the shofar. If you don't blow the shofar, you blew it. You're not. The Gemara says, the way that Hashem remembers us for the good is with the shofar. Amar Rabbi Avohu, why do we blow the shofar of the aisle? God says, blow the shofar of the aisle, so I'll remember Akedas Yitzchak, and I'll consider it like you sacrificed yourself. Listen carefully to an original insight. It's Pashud. On all of these Yomim Tovim, you serve Hashem with what you're being judged. The only thing is, well, how do you serve Hashem with what you're being judged on Rosh Hashanah? So on Sukkot, we're being judged on water, so you pour water. What are we being judged on Rosh Hashanah? Our life. So somehow on Rosh Hashanah, you got to give your life to God. How do you give your life to God? You say, God, this world doesn't belong to me. You're in charge. That's how you give when your life is on the line and you're being judged on your life. You say to Hashem, Ribbon Hashem, I give you my life. How? I don't control this world. You control. And it's considered like you did the Akedah, so it's like you offered your life to Hashem. So obviously, if on a Rosh Hashanah, you're going to come into shul, and you're going to pull every trick in the world, right? You're going to do every skula and every mitzvah, you're not going to blow the shofar. Nah, it ain't going to work. The shofar is the key. The Gemara even says on Tezayin Amud Beis, why do we blow the shofar? The Gemara says, well, yeah, that's a good question, because God told you to. What do you mean, why do we blow the shofar? So the Gemara says, you know why? Why do we blow the shofar twice? Kedei la'arbe v'sasatan. You want to confuse the Satan. Says Rashi, when the Satan hears that Klal Yisrael love mitzvahs, he's silenced. And you know, it's not easy for people to be quiet. Especially for some people. For people who like to talk, it's not easy for them to be quiet. And the Satan likes to talk. So it's probably not easy to silence him. And yet the shofar silences him. Rashi says he sees how much we love mitzvahs. Tosfos says that he actually thinks Mashiach is coming. The shofar is so important in the beginning of the year. The Gemara says on Tezayin Amud Beis, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Kol shana she'ein toikin la b'tchilasa, mariyin la b'soifa. Any year that they don't blow in the beginning of the year, it's bad in the end of the year. Not sometimes, not usually, not most of the time, always, always. It is always bad in the end of the year if you don't blow in the beginning of the year. Says Tosfos, what's that talking about? Why wouldn't somebody blow in the beginning of the year? So we say, what do you mean? He's an Avarian, he's a Rasha, he decided not to go to shul and blow. Tosfos says, of course, that goes without saying. Says Tosfos, you know what we're talking about? Someone's an oinus. Their circumstances beyond their control and they can't go to hear the shofar. They're ill, they can't hear the shofar. Chas Hashem, they're in the hospital. They're homebound. Says Tosfos, by hook or by crook, even if it's not your fault, if you're not going to hear the shofar, it's going to be a bad end of the year. It doesn't matter why. There are no excuses. A person could be ill. So the question is, why is that true? If an oinus happens, then, and you can't hear the shofar, it's not your fault, it's going to be a bad end of the year. Why would that be? That doesn't make sense. Why would it be a bad year if you don't blow the shofar? I understand if you chose not to hear the shofar, it's going to be a bad end. But what if somebody had circumstances beyond their control? They were on their way to shul, and they got kidnapped by aliens, right? You know there's extraterrestrial life, and they took them to Mars for 2 days, and then they came back. So it's not the guy's fault. And he tried to ward them off, and there's nothing he could do. He got kidnapped. Still, the Gemara says, according to Tosfos, it's going to be a bad ending. Why don't we apply the rule? Chishev lasois mitzvah venenas malalav kilasa. Yeah? Says a Meshech Chachma. Says Rav Aaron Kotler. You know why oinus is not an excuse? Because the Gemara says, how does Hashem remember us for good? Through the shofar. So you're right, it's not your fault. It's not your fault that you didn't hear the shofar. But you also can't get a good year because the only way you could get a good year is if the shofar is blown. It's like somebody, there's an illness. And the only way to be cured is if you get a vaccine, let's say. Let's say that there was an illness that vaccines actually worked. Let's say there was such a thing. Okay? And somebody couldn't make it to get the vaccine because, they got a flat tire. And anyone who got the vaccine is cured. So could the person come and say to the doctor, yeah, but I should be cured because it's not my fault that I didn't get the vaccine. Pal, you're right, it's not your fault. But if you didn't get the vaccine, you're not going to get better. Says the Meshech Chochmah, the shofar is like medicine. It doesn't matter that it's not your fault that you didn't take it. If you didn't blow the shofar, it's not going to be a good year. It doesn't matter why. You're excused, not your fault. Nice boy, good boy, fine boy. It's like the kid misses Shiur for 2 weeks. So the Rebbe says, what's going to be with you? The kid said, what do you mean? It's not my fault. First, I didn't say it's your fault, but you're not going to become a Talmid Chacham on it's not your fault. You still didn't learn. It's not going to make up for what you missed.
The Daraisa, right? That's what we're talking
Right now, what do you mean the Daraisa?
Because we had a second day, right?
Yeah, it's Minagav Eseinu B'Yadeinu. So that's Tosfos. Tosfos says that even if there's an oinus that you didn't blow the shofar, it's gonna be a bad year. But comes Tosfos, and Tosfos says, but not if it comes out on Shabbos. If it comes out on Shabbos, then you're good. So the Achroinim ask, Rav Aaron Kotler in the Mishnah Rav Aaron, Chelik Beis, page Reish, the Meshech Chochmah, if when extenuating circumstances don't allow you to blow the shofar, it's going to be a bad year because you didn't take your medication and you don't get cured and Hashem can't remember you for the good. So what difference does it make if it's circumstances beyond your control or if it's Shabbos? Why Shabbos is it smooth sailing? Why is the coast clear? What's the chiluk between Oynes and Shabbos? That's the $1 million question. On Chav Ches Elul, Tavshin Pei Gimel. 48 hours before the Yom Hadin. What's the difference between Oynes? If when an Oynes happens, the Satan doesn't get confused because he doesn't think Mashiach is coming or he doesn't see our love for mitzvahs, then why is Shabbos different? By the way, you're all familiar that there's a fundamental difference between the Bavli and the Yerushalmi when it comes to Rosh Hashanah that comes out on Shabbos. We have 2 psukim. One pasuk says Yom Teruah, day of blowing, and one pasuk says, by the way, people say, I only follow the written law. In Judaism, there's no such thing as a written law. The written law has no meaning and explanation without the oral law. You know what the Torah says about Rosh Hashanah? It's a day of blowing. That's what. So, come into shul, what are we supposed to do? With a bag of Kleenex, a box of Kleenex, blow your nose, come in, pull in with a BMW. That's all it says, a day of blowing. Without Torah Sheba'al Peh, the Torah Shebechsav has no standing b'chlal. But another pasuk says Zichron Shua. Yeah? Stira. The Yerushalmi says Yom Teruah when Rosh Hashanah comes out during the week. Zichron Shua when it comes out on Shabbos. The Yerushalmi asks, but in the Beis Hamikdash they blew? Different drasha. It says, Be'echad LaChodesh. Then, anywhere there's a bezin? No, only B'makam Karbanos. That's Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi says, Yom Teruah during the week, Zichron Teruah on Shabbos. According to the Yerushalmi, we don't blow shofar on Shabbos, Midairaisa. Not midrabanan, midairaisa, not a gzeira, midairaisa. The Bavli argues. The Bavli says, what? Why wouldn't you be allowed to blow shofar on Shabbos? It's not a malacha, it's chachma ve'ina malacha. There's no isser daraisa to blow shofar on Shabbos. Therefore, the Bavli says there's no difference between Yom Teruah and Zichron Teruah. The reason we don't blow shofar is gzeira derabba. What's the gzeira? Rabba said, Shema yavirenu dalet amos. So I had a new, we've been speaking a lot about Rabba recently. Rabbah was the one who always started off Shiurim with jokes. That's Rabbah, right? And we said, Parshas Ekev, a year and a half ago, why did Rabbah always start off with jokes? Rabbah lived a very tragic life. He had many funerals in his family. Nobody liked him. The Gemara says, Sani le kula pampadisa. Nobody liked him. Now you could imagine, when Rabbah got up in the shul, and they were about to blow shofar on Shabbos, Rabbah said, no shofar on Shabbos. They said, what do you mean? But we're going to have a bad year. No, you think that was a popular decree? I guarantee you, Rabbah's decree was not popular. And when Rabbah said no lulav on Shabbos, I don't think that was popular either. And when he said no Megillah on Shabbos, these three decrees were probably the three most unpopular decrees in history. We once spoke about that Rabbi Akiva Yosef Schlesinger wanted to reinstate blowing the shofar on Shabbos. We spoke about that 3 years ago. COVID. What? During COVID. Yeah, I couldn't breathe during this year. It was post-COVID. So the Bavli holds that we don't blow shofar midrabanan. Now, this Shabbos we're going to say Zichron Trua. It seems like it's according to the Yerushalmi. No, even the Bavli could hold that the Chumash itself refers to a situation where we don't blow midrabanan. You know why? Rabbi Yosef Engel writes that the Gezerah of Rabbah was an early Gezerah. You know how early it was? When Moshe Rabbeinu came down from Har Sinai, it was already in effect. So when the Pasuk says Zichron Trua, just remember the shofar, it's midrabanan. The Gezerah midrabanan is the biblical age, Rabbi Yosef Engel says. Okay. Says Rav Aaron Kotler, let's think about this Gezerah for a moment. Imagine a guy, it's Shabbos. And everybody knows, until the Gezerah Drabanan, you're allowed to blow the shofar on Shabbos, according to the Bavli. What are we afraid he's going to do? In the heat of the moment, he's going to carry the shofar for Amos. Why? He wants to learn how to blow. What would the halacha be if he carried the shofar? Would he be chayiv misa? No, because he forgot. Would he have to bring a carbon chatas? No, because he's doing a mitzvah. In his mind, he's running with the shofar to learn how to blow. This has a din of ta'a bidvar mitzvah, pater. He doesn't have to do anything. It's not really a big deal, because it's not like he forgot and he turned on a light. If someone's involved in doing a mitzvah, and in the act of doing a mitzvah, he does an avera, pater. He's off the hook. He still did an avera, but no carbon is needed. So the whole chashash is somebody in the course of doing a mitzvah might carry. Big deal. Big deal. What's so terrible? How many people are going to do this already? And by the way, Tosfos points out, if you look at number 13, it doesn't say you're going to take it from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaRabim, because no one would ever forget and take a shofar from the Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaRabim, because there's a clear demarcation between Rishus HaYachid and Rishus HaRabim. What we're afraid of is someone's going to find the shofar in the Rishus HaRabim. Now, I don't know about you, I found very interesting things in my life. I've never found the shofar in the Rishus HaRabim. And I like to walk. Everybody knows that. I know. People, and whenever I speak somewhere, I'm the guy who walks, right? I've found things. I could tell you on my walk from my house to North Woodmere, I have a list of the wildlife you would not believe. I've seen a shark. Seriously, somebody threw a shark out of their window onto Branch Boulevard. A chicken in the forest. Fox. Turtle. I'm telling you, I have a nice list. And my kids will confirm. I've never found a shofar. Have you? Do you know anybody who's ever seen a shofar? Maybe you're going to see a ram walking in the Rishus HaRabim. I haven't seen that either. So we're mevatel the entire mitzvah, lest you find the shofar in the Rishus HaRabim, and in the course of doing a mitzvah, carry it, which wouldn't even be a big deal. Next thing, do you know what Rishus HaRabim is? How many people do you need for Rishus HaRabim? 600,000. Anyone here know a street that has 600,000 people go on it? Right? How many? Ocean Parkway, they say. Ocean Parkway. What else? I don't know. I'm not sure exactly. The Bir Halacha says a Rishus HaRabim is davar she'ein matzoi klalu klal. It kemat doesn't exist. So we have to shter every Jew in the world from hearing the shofar. I remember, without giving away too many details, I was once a rabbi in a shul, and there was a very holy woman there who didn't have much connection to Judaism, but she was, I never saw anyone so attached to the shofar. I never saw anyone. The whole year, the shofar, so beautiful. She can't wait until she hears the shofar. And there was a guy blowing in that shul, I don't know, for 30 years, and then he didn't stop blowing, and she was mamish with anxiety. Who's going to blow the shofar? And then another guy, a young guy, took over. Wow, even better, he blows the shofar. Why am I mentioning this? Because people are attached to the shofar. So why do we have to shter every Jew who loves to hear the sound of the shofar? Why? Because maybe on Ocean Parkway, somebody's going to find a shofar and forget, and he's going to carry it to the local Rav. So now we have to disturb everyone in Klal Yisrael. And we know if you don't blow shofar, you're going to have a bad year. No, it doesn't apply to Shabbos. Why doesn't it apply to Shabbos? So, the first answer, Rabbi Yosef said, from the Tzitz Eliezer, Chelek Yud Zayin, Siman Ayin Daled, that, you see, the thing is, even though the Chacham were Oiker Tkiyah Shofar, we're still going to blow shofar on Shabbos. On Rosh Hashanah. How? So you say second day. No, but that's not good enough. We need to blow on Rosh Hashanah proper. It's Yom HaRichta. It's one long day. By the way, just as an aside, there's an amazing Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz. Why is Rosh Hashanah Yom HaRichta? Rosh Hashanah is the day who was created, Adam HaRishon. Adam HaRishon was created on a Friday. We know that first Friday, it remained light for 36 hours straight. It was a Yom HaRichta. So therefore, Rosh Hashanah was formulated as one long day. So we're blowing on Rosh Hashanah. We're blowing on the first day. What do you mean? It's the second day. No, Rosh Hashanah is formulated as one long day. So just in case we don't blow on the first day, now this is not going to work for a guy who gets kidnapped by aliens, right? If a guy's an oinus, he's not going to have a good year. But at least it works for Shabbos. By the way,
why do we say Shabbos twice?
Because it's not really Yom HaRichta. It's only Yom HaRichta to answer this question. So the truth is that when it comes to Shachianu, we be'ikr hold, if you don't have a new suit and you don't have a new fruit, you still make Shachianu. Shachianu is going on the day. In fact, Rav Shlomo Zalman said, if your kavana is on the fruit only, it's a hefsek in the... Your kavanah has to be, it's going on the day, and l'rav chadamilsa, just in case it's also going on the new fruit. But regarding conceptually having Rosh Hashanah without Tkiyah, you still have it. In other words, the shofar offers spiritual protection. So you've made the, you're still within the, we have an attorney here, the statute of limitations for the blowing of the shofar. You've made the statute of limitations. Legabe halacha, it's a separate day. But regarding the spiritual protection, it's all part of the first day. By the way, the Tzitz Eliezer says that you could say a drush on the words of the Gemara. The Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah, in Be'ah, Dalan Amavez, the Gemara asks, V'hashta diyadinan b'kfiya diyarche. Now that we're certain about the calendar, my time avdinan trei yomi, why do we make 2 days? Says the Gemara, Mishum desholchu misam, they sent from there. Hizaharu b'minag avosechem yadechem, zimnin degazru amachas gezera. Maybe the government will make a decree. Va'asi le'akalkule, and you're going to come to make an error. So, what's the reason we keep 2 days? Maybe things will revert back to a state of corruption. So the Tzitz Eliezer interprets this Gemara homiletically. You know what the malchus that might make a gzera is? Shamayim. You know why Shamayim might make a gzera? Shamayim might make a gzera because they're going to say, you didn't blow shofar this year. Say, what do you mean? It's because I'm so careful in Hilchos Shabbos. You know me, I'm Mr. Hilchos Shabbos. I would never violate any detail of Hilchos Shabbos. So Shamayim says, really? To the videotape. Let me. They pull out. What about, when you ate the watermelon and you plucked out the seeds? What about when you brushed your teeth? What about, You know, and they're going to give a whole long list of things that people are not careful about. So you're going to tell me you didn't blow the shofar because you're careful about Shabbos? And what about this laundry list of Shabbos violations? So therefore, we keep 2 days because maybe Shamayim will make a decree that we're not careful on Shabbos and it will cause devastation. So therefore, we keep 2 days to at least get in a little bit of shofar on Rosh Hashanah. That's answer number one. Comes the Meshech Chachma, and the Meshech Chachma says a very beautiful approach. Meshech Chachma says Tkiyah Shofar is medicine. And if you don't take your medicine, you know, if someone Chas V'Shalom is a diabetic, and they don't take their medicine, oh, it's not my fault, I forgot. You know, we're not criticizing you. You're just not able to remain in this world, right? You have to now go horizontal under the ground. Why? Because you didn't take the medicine. But it's not my fault. It's a good guy. You're a good guy. We're not punishing you by burying you. That's the reality. We have to bury you because you didn't take the medication. Says the Meshech Chachma, there's a secret over here. The secret is that Klal Yisrael and HaKadosh Baruch Hu are like two beloved spouses, that each one is concerned for the welfare of the other. So in our tefillin it says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one." And in Hashem's tefillin, what does it say? Who's like the Jewish people? One nation on earth. We're praising Hashem, Hashem is praising us. We care about Hashem's honor, Hashem cares about our honor. Hashem says, take revenge for the Bnei Yisrael on Midian. So what does Moshe say? Take revenge against Midian for Hashem. That's our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ani l'doidi, v'doidi li. Comes Rosh Hashanah, and Hashem says, Yidden, blow the shofar. You're in big trouble, you're in hot water. You have the Satan. The Satan is a formidable prosecutor. Boy, does he have an inside story on you. He's got some bad report on you. You know, chapter and verse, you know, bullet points one after another. Blow the shofar, Yidden. But Klal Yisrael says, okay, that's good for us to blow the shofar. We're not going to do what's good for us. But Rebbeinu Shalom, what's going to be with your honor? You created the world in 6 days. You have something that gives testimony to the creation of the world. Your treasure, Shabbos, proclaims your greatness. What's going to be with your honor, Hashem? So we say, come what may, with our personal welfare, come what may with our life, with our livelihood, with our children. We're not going to do what's good for us. We're going to do what's good for you. We know you want to do what's good for us, but we want to do what's good for you. So we say, we throw our welfare away, come what may. We're going to serve and honor your honor. We say, Yiskadel v'yiskadei shmei rabbah. Your great name should be magnified. So Hashem says, you're concerned for my honor. What a sacrifice. Hashem says, that is a greater zechus, even greater than the shofar itself. That's your merit on the Yom Hadin. That you're willing to forgo your advocacy in order to honor me. That's the zechus on the Yom Hadin.
So why did they blow in the Beis HaMikdash? Why would they have Shabbos there?
Because we're not worried about, there's no shvus b'mikdash. There's no Isurei D'Rabbanan in the Mikdash. Ein shvus b'mikdash. Right? So the whole reason you don't blow is you might carry. In the Mikdash it's not an issue. Right? Ein shvus b'mikdash. There are no Isurei D'Rabbanan in the Mikdash. Comes the Avnei Nezer, and the Avnei Nezer says, wait a second. Why do we blow the shofar? To remember what? Akedas Yitzchak. What's the zechus of the Akedas Yitzchak? What's the merit? You know, Yitzchak's a smart man. He's a prophet. You know, the Avos kept the whole Torah before the Torah was given because they knew what God wanted. If you would have asked Yitzchak, does God want human sacrifice? He would say, no way. If he would have wanted it, I would have done it long ago. I've come to the determination, God abhors human sacrifice. And when Abraham said, hey Yitzchak, you wouldn't believe what God told me. I have to sacrifice you. Did Yitzchak think God wanted it? He said, I don't think so. I don't think so. He was a Navi also. And the proof that Yitzchak was right was, in fact, God didn't want Abraham to shecht him. So why did Yitzchak go through with it? Yitzchak said, I listened to the sages of Israel. I listened to the Chachmei Yisrael, even if I don't understand. I might not understand when the Chachamim say, do this or don't do that. But I don't think it's right. I don't think they're right. They're telling these stories over from Rav Aaron Schechter. They said over in one of the Hespedim, someone once came to Rav Aaron, I don't think you're correct about this. He said, what? What right do you have to formulate an opinion? What, you're one of the sages of Israel? You have no right to an opinion. So he thought about it. He said, no, you're right. What right do you have to say that I'm right? What do you mean I'm right? Who are you? You're one of the sages, you're one of the Chachmei Yisrael? The zechus of the Akedah was being mevatel one's das to the true sages of Israel. Emunas Chachamim. But when Rosh Hashanah comes out on Shabbos, and the Chachamim say, we don't think you should blow shofar. Can you imagine what they said in the back row in the shul? He's a rabbi. He's a rabbi. I don't know. I went to yeshiva and I learned you should blow the shofar. And the rabbi's saying he shouldn't blow the shofar. What, he's a rabbi? No. I don't know what religion he's working for. In my religion, we blow the shofar. This guy, I'm saying, what do you think they said about Rabbah? You don't think there's a good reason they thought they didn't like Rabbah? On Shabbos, only because there's a bezdin. Because the Mishnah says that after the Beis Hamikdash, the Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah Chavtes, Mishchar Beis Hamikdash, Hiskin Rabbi Yochanan ben Azakai, that you blow shofar in Yavne, and that's what Rabbi Glatstein said. The Chacham said Echad Yavne ve'Echad Kol Makom Sheish Bezdin. So the Rif had a bezdin. The question is, do you need a bezdin of smuchim? The Baal Amar says the Rif didn't. The Rosh says he did. We went to Spain to the Rif. We tried to find out, but we couldn't determine. Says the Sachet Shavar, the whole zechus of Akedas Yitzchak is listening to the Chachmei Yisrael. When Rosh Hashanah comes out on Shabbos and the Chachamim say, don't blow the shofar, so what should we do? We should die? The Gemara says if we don't blow shofar, it's not going to be a good year. The rabbis say, just listen. That's what you should do. You should listen to the Chachamim. That is a zechus on par with Akedas Yitzchak. It's the same thing as the Akedah. We're giving up, we're sacrificing, we're jeopardizing our life to listen to the Chachamim. That's the No'is Hadesha, that's the Avnei Nezer, Chelek Aleph, page Kuf Nun Daled, number 17. Rav Aaron Kotler has a similar approach. Rav Aaron Kotler says, what's the purpose of the shofar? It's to mix up the Satan. How do we mix up the Satan? The Satan says, look, if these guys love mitzvahs, I can't get involved. The Gemara says, why does Hashem show the Jewish people favoritism? Because I tell them to bench on a beya and they bench even on a kazayas. That means when Klal Yisrael goes above and beyond the requirement, it causes Hashem to look the other way and to show us favoritism. And the Satan is silenced. The Satan, as we said, he likes to talk. But when we start doing things, extra carefully, he gets very nervous. Says Rav Aaron Kotler, when the Satan sees how careful we are in the laws of Shabbos, even though we're not showing carefulness proactively, we're showing carefulness passively. We're not blowing the shofar, lest someone find in the Rosh Harabim a shofar and carry it mistakenly, thinking they're doing a mitzvah. That carefulness shows such chavivus for the mitzvah that what? That's the zechus and it silences the Satan. So Marv Rabbi say, the new year is coming up, less than 48 hours. What's it going to look like? What's Tavshin Pei Dalet going to look like? There's a very famous Aruch Laner, a very well-known Aruch Laner, an iconic treatment and exposition of the Aruch Laner in Parsha Hazinu in the Sefer Minchas Ani. is Rosh Hashanah coming out on Shabbos, is it good for the Jews or is it bad for the Jews? Right? That's always the question. Is it good for the Jews or is it bad for the Jews? He said we need to make a historical analysis. In years that good things happen, years that bad things happen. So he goes through the history of the Jewish people. The year the first Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, Rosh Hashanah came out on Shabbos. The year the second Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, Rosh Hashanah came out on Shabbos. The year of COVID, Rosh Hashanah came out. Meaning afterward. We had to deal with what they try to do to us afterwards. No, I mean... Rosh Hashanah came out on Shabbos. But on the other hand, the best years in the history of the Jewish people, Rosh Hashanah came out on Shabbos. Hashem forgave the Jewish people for the Egel, and the year Rosh Hashanah came out on Shabbos. We built the Mishkan when Rosh Hashanah came out on Shabbos. Why is it? Why would the worst years, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times? Dickens? Who is that? Yeah? Everyone knows. Charles Dickens says, when Rosh Hashanah comes out on Shabbos, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. That's what he was referring to. Then later they put it about Yoinan and the dog. He says very simple. Somebody in the king's palace got into hot water. He was in big trouble. He was put on trial. He hired the best defense attorneys. They couldn't bail him out. And then everyone realized, his wife has the ear of some of the inside people over there. So the wife said, come on, what do you have to pay these guys hundreds of thousands of dollars? I'm going to go into the palace. I'm going to put in a good word for you. I'm going to get you off the hook. She comes into the palace. She sweet talks her husband through the case. He's acquitted. She was Melitz Yoisher on the husband. A few weeks later, another officer is in trouble. He also hires defense team. They can't bail him out. He remembers what the first guy did. He says, honey, you ready? She says, sure. The problem is, he didn't treat her that well. And it was obvious, because she had lacerations on her face. And she comes into the courtroom, and she tries to sweet talk her husband out of the case. And the king's looking at her like, so he turns, what's that? Oh, she injured. They just say, they point to him. He said, get out of here. He's done, he's finished. Says the Aruch LaNer, we're on trial. In 48 hours, we stand before HaMelech HaMishpat. And our repertoire is being scrutinized. And we don't know what our fate has in store. And we need an attorney. We need advocacy. And that sanegar is a shofar. The problem is, what are we going to do on Shabbos? Shabbos, the defense is off. We're in big trouble. No, don't worry. We always have our wife. She always bails us out. Honey! Shabbos is the ben zivug of Klal Yisrael. Shabbos is the kala, l'chadoidi l'kras kala. Shabbos is the wife of Klal Yisrael. She could bail us out when nobody else can. She has a certain, she has a way with words. Shabbos is going to stand by us. Shabbos is our partner. Shabbos is our zivug. Provided that we treat her well. Provided that we care for her. Provided that there's no abuse apparent on her face. Says the Aruch LaNer, it was the best of times and it was the worst of times. If you treat Shabbos well, she could be a very good sanegar. But if we don't treat Shabbos well, it could also be the worst of times. So in a year like this, one of the important things to do is to upgrade one's zehiros for Hilchos Shabbos. Because you want to make sure that when Shabbos comes in the courtroom, she's looking good. People are going to say, oh, that's a husband who takes care of his wife. That's what it depends on. A year like this, so what does Tavshin Pei Daled depend on? It depends on Shabbos. It depends on Shabbos. We don't have the shofar. We don't have our attorney. We have something better. You just have to make sure you take good care of her. That's what it depends on. I'll tell you one more idea. You know who was put on trial? You heard about the story? I mean, this is not like petty crime, murder. You heard about this? And he got off the hook. Not because the glove didn't fit. He got off the hook, and he killed his brother in cold blood. He just killed him. He started a little fight. He just killed his brother. You heard what happened to Cain? He had a court case, and God acquitted him. You're putter, off the hook. He sees his father. Dad said, "No, what happened? What happened in the case? Guess what? Asisi tshuva v'nispasharti. I did tshuva." And Hashem was nispashua. We struck a deal, plea bargain. I'm doing community service. You know, I'm doing community service. I'm mowing the lawn outside of Gan Eden. What? You killed your brother? How do you get off? What does Adam Rishon say? Mizmar Shiur liyoim HaShabbos. What does that got to do with the price of tea in China? Mashmita Eitzel Har Sinai. And Adam Rishon said, I didn't know the koyach of tshuva. That implies, says the Aruch LaNer, he knew tshuva, he didn't know the koyach of tshuva. Says the Aruch LaNer, we know that the Gemara tells us anyone who observes the Shabbos, even if he worships Avodah Zarah, moichel lai. Let's think about that for a moment, says the Aruch LaNer. What's the halacha in a regular case, capital case, in front of Beis Din? A guy is warned, pal, don't serve Avodah Zarah. No, I have to. I'm just drawn to that Buddha. I just have to bow down to it. Pal, don't do it. We're going to kill you. And he does it. And he goes in front of Beis Din. And Beis Din says, we told you not to do it. And we have Eidim. And he says, ha ha ha, guess what? You're about to kill me? Chatasi, avisi, pashati, yashanu bagan. Ha, I beat you. I did tshuva. I'm off the hook. I say, pal, tshuva doesn't work. Tshuva doesn't work for a court in this world. You know that. Tshuva doesn't work for an earthly court. Why not? Because the Torah says, Nefesh hachotes hu tamos. Tshuva does not work to save from Beis Din Shalmata. There's only one way for tshuva to actually work. The only way for tshuva to work is somehow if you could be recreated, if you're a Beria Chadasha, if you could be recreated, then tshuva could work. Remember we saw a few weeks ago, when was it? We saw a few weeks ago, the way Shabbos works is Hashem creates 6 days, and when you observe the Shabbos, Hashem, through your observance of Shabbos, creates the next 7 days. So you're recreated on Shabbos. Shabbos could bail you out of the Toichacha. How does Shabbos bail you out of the Toichacha? Because you're recreated. You're created for 6 days. You keep Shabbos. Shabbos, you recreate yourself. If somehow somebody could get to Olam Haba and back down, so you're a new creation. In other words, you're right, I did the Aveira. But that was Ruvain. I'm Shimon. What do you mean you're Shimon? How are you Shimon? You were standing here the whole time? No, you didn't realize? I went up to Olam Haba and I got back. No, pal, you're standing here the whole time. No, I kept Shabbos. Shabbos is Me'ein Olam Haba. When I kept Shabbos, it's like I went up to Olam Haba and I came down back here to this world. Shabbos reveals the power of tshuva, the koyach of tshuva. The way tshuva works is that you're recreating yourself, you're a beriach, you're a new person. Shabbos reveals that the mechanism of tshuva, by the way, the Chidah points out, vishavta is the same letters as vishabas. The mechanism of tshuva is a certain recreation of yourself. When Adam Arishon saw that Cain killed someone and he did tshuva, he said, what? You got to the next world? That's how powerful tshuva is? You know what? The koyach is stemming from Mizmar Shir Liyam HaShabbos. That there's some fundamental connection between the process of tshuva and what actually transpires on Shabbos. So this year, Rosh Hashanah comes out on Shabbos, and we don't have the great merit of the shofar. But let's remember, we don't have the merit of the shofar. But make sure you think, Ribbon Shalom, it's worth it for me to forgo the shofar because I prefer to honor you than to try to access my advocacy. It's more important for me to honor your creation of the world by keeping Shabbos. When you're standing there before Musaf, think, Ribbon Shalom, I know you would want me to blow shofar. I know for me I would like to blow shofar. I'm not doing what's good for me, I'm doing what's good for you. I am announcing to the world, you created the world in 6 days and you rested on the seventh day. I'm concerned for you. I'm not concerned for myself right now. Or like the Meshech Chacham, or like the Avnei Nezer writes, this is the Akedah. I'm jeopardizing my life to listen to the rabbis. I'm not sure I get what Rabbi's saying, but I'm sure he's right. He knows what's good for us. And Rav Aaron Kohler says we're confusing the Satan, so don't just go through the Shabbos. Oh, good, there's no shofar. There's no shofar, and there's a kiddush. It's great. I thought the kiddush was for the shofar. There's no shofar, and there's a wow. But if you don't think for a moment why there's no shofar, it's hard to access all of these spiritual benefits. Think about the fact, I'm doing what's good for you, Ribbon Shalom. Think about the fact, this is my Akedah. This is how I show chavivus for mitzvahs. And the more we're able to upgrade our Zehiros and Hilchos Shabbos, the more our beloved wife is going to come in and silence all the prosecutors, and silence the accusers, and get us off the hook. That's the koyach of tshuva. Tshuva allows us to be recreated, and that's the koyach of Shabbos. Shabbos, we're being transported to Olam Haba, we come back down, and we're a Beria Chadasha. I appreciate everybody's coming to the Shiurim to mechazik me, and may HaKadosh Baruch Hu give us siyata d'shmaya to come together for Limud HaTorah, Be'ez Hashem, next year and many years to come, b'siyata d'shmaya. Thank you very much. Agutiyar.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.